Well, I wasn't planning on splitting the turn into two videos this time, but I jumped a quick hit on Mansions of Madness. And since I had pretty much, I think, over 15 minutes on the other video anyway, I decided to load it up. I'm doing the economic phase right now. We're seeing something a little different that I haven't covered before, and I hadn't looked up the rules as usual. England decided to attempt to exceed their limits. And I looked these up before making the choice. They spent $100 and they actually failed, and it doesn't hurt them. But if they succeeded and got an FTI that was higher than their current limit, and they're allowed to do that up to 2 points higher, the same with DTI, and they're allowed to grab a couple extra manufacturer counters as well. If they did that and got a revolt, they would perhaps, 50% chance, suffer a loss of stability and a loss of economic power, which would be reflected by them losing a DTI, an FTI, and a manufacturing counter or a level of manufacturers. So the penalty is quite high if you fail. It's automatically fine to do it on the last turn of a period because you can't have an event in that period. In this case, the end of the period is not until here, so the English would be taking 3 event rolls where they could have suffered this loss. It's not going to affect them because they failed the roll. In fact, failing the roll was, I don't know, maybe about 50-50 or whatever. Anyway, there's very little going on this turn, so I'm trying to use up some video to chatter about things that I discover. Well, no big shock, forgot something else. Spanish viceroys. I knew that they had a positive effect, but then I kind of forgot to look that up and didn't bother. They get a free colonization attempt in the area that they're viceroy for. And I also knew that Cortes got Sonora as part of it, but I forgot about the freebie there. And so basically the Spanish got hosed out of one for at least last turn. This turn, I remember to roll it, and I gave them an extra free one for this turn, even though theoretically they would have done something else with it. I don't know what, and taking 2 of them in Veracruz isn't terribly bad. They certainly didn't want the extra one back here in Sonora. That's the point, and they paid for that one, so this seems reasonable. Anyway, continuing to move through the administrative phase. So here we're entering the second round, actually. Did the economics, the administrative stuff, purchasing things. See the growth of Spanish colonies. These aren't settled yet, but they're moving there to grab more gold and ship it out. There's really nothing left for this round. Nobody's got the money. Portugal sent Albuquerque back to Goa. Set something up there so that they have continuing the route down into India. Cochin would also be an option, but then they, oh no, they wanted Cochin. Okay, because that extends them. They have a port here, so they want to extend there, and since they know it already, they'll go there. But after this, nobody's got a lot of money left that they want to spend to move armies around. Moving armies, Turkey, France, they both would desire to shift some things around. It would cost $10 to do so. $10 is tough right now. Maybe not so much for France. They got about 150 left, but 100 of that is slated for stability improvements, and 50. It's always nice to have $50 in the bank because there's a bad event that can make you go bankrupt if you don't. Turkey, on the other hand, well, they got about $40 left, and they want to do a stability improvement. So, they can't do anything. What they did, though, is cut a deal with the Spaniards. The Spanish control the Knights. The Turks control the Muslim privateers, most specifically Barbarossa. Actually, the Spanish don't want to play this game because they've already lost their fleet. So the hell with that. They're shipping this out, and that's going to hurt Turkish stability if they don't fight it. So they're going to have to make an attempt to attack it. Okay, well, there went that thought. I thought, well, I'll let the Spanish increase theirs. It didn't work out that way, though. All right. Well, it ended naturally on round 4, which was the turn the Turkey needed it to go. They failed once down here, so they ended up spending $30 though to get rid of the privateer. If they hadn't, though, they lose the stability, and their chance of gaining more than one is almost nil. So, you know, losing one and not having enough money to do a stability gain activity is a decent trade-off. Anyway, nobody really did anything. Even Portugal doesn't have a lot of money yet. They're, you know, pretty much spending at the limit. Now, they paid back their loan, which you could say, whoa, they weren't paying that much. They had $60. But I hate having loans out like that. I really do, because they're draining you of constant interest. You can't make that kind of extra money with most extra decisions. What could they have gotten off that extra money that they had? Well, they could get a stability improvement, which could get them victory points. But they actually have enough money to take a shot at one, and we'll do that. It's just not as good a shot as they could have taken. On the other hand, what else could they have done? Well, they could have moved around and explored more, but their chances were low. Their fleet's back here. It just didn't seem like it's worth it. One thing they'd like to get is connect up their territory here, but they don't know this space yet, so that's kind of difficult. And they have very limited. They have one conquistador, one explorer, so it's kind of tough for them to make a fair choice there. All right, go through the end of the turn mechanics then. But I mean, this literally, the whole round section of the turn took, 5 minutes. I'm serious, and it's something. Sometimes it takes 20 minutes to go through the round. Sometimes it takes a half hour. But that's not where the time's spent for me. Of course, a pretty common occurrence when I'm playing so many countries under this and not really focusing on any of them. I missed the fact that there were revolts here and here. The Turks paid the money. I should have been, after my speaking, I should have been redeploying them anyhow to positions I wanted to. So I quickly just fudged and moved them down. The $30 they spent, they were able to suppress revolts. They wanted to do that anyway. It's just a matter of, split focus over so many different countries. It's impossible to really be aware of everything, so it's more likely to make a mistake. Not that I wouldn't, if I was playing in a multiplayer game and somebody said, oh shit, I forgot that, my usual way of playing is, hell, great, it didn't really affect anyone, make your rolls, whatever. So it's not even different from that. All right, now here's the little cheat thing, and yes, I'm popping in and out all the time. The Spanish putting one little merchant fleet there allows them to haul all 80 gold that they produced without any risk of attrition or anything. The only problem with that is if a pirate shows up there, which is possible, or if a privateer heads down there, which is impossible right now because Spain's not at war against anyone, although the English sea dogs can actually raid without being at war once they show up. They're not there yet, though. But anyway, if a privateer gets down there, they can not only sink the entire gold fleet, essentially, by killing the merchant completely, but they can also steal some of the money. So once there's a risk on the board, Spain's going to probably have to go back to using their gold fleet, which is a special rule for them only. No one else has anything like it. So if, say, Portugal ended up with all those gold mines somehow, say there's no Tordesillas, then they really have no recourse. Somebody could go to war with them, say Spain, and raid and pretty much take away their ability. Well, that's not entirely true. They don't have that gold fleet, but they could use their normal naval transport capabilities to move the gold over. That's a tough route, though. This gives you the ability to haul a huge amount of gold with that gold fleet. I think it's 200 ducats it can haul, although already Spain's at 80, and there's still some big mines left to be opened up. All right, and lo and behold, though it didn't make a bit of difference, I forgot the technology movements there. Moved them up. You'll see something interesting here. The Orthodox have passed over. Actually, this should be one higher. have passed over the first land phase. So now, what few Orthodox countries there are, and there really aren't any, except maybe Russia, that have any artillery, I think. The Latvians may. But they've pushed it past. But what hasn't happened, so this was in this space, basically. It was set up like this. The Orthodox bump up and this shoots down, but at the same time this goes up. So this shoots down to there, being in position for that. Now, that was the 1540 turn, which means this moves down a space and gets closer. This is the turn when it historically was reached. There's a speed up mechanism. Next turn, this will move 2 spaces down, assuming nobody's reached it. So, in a sense, you kind of don't really need to push technology. It'll come to you, but it'll come to you later than it did historically. So if you don't push forward for it, you're all kind of sitting there waiting for it to hit you. So here, if you've got the money, and France did at one point, moving forward to get yourself in that number 1 position ahead of everyone else means that you can hold off buying that new technology until it actually, is a major advantage for you. You can always spend the money on naval tech if you're blocked by the land tech and don't want to move forward yet. But it does tend to slow technology down because someone who ran up there to get it, well, they're not just going to run past it if they can help it. They're going to hold that technology marker until it's to their advantage, i.e. they're ready to join a war on that turn or something. On the first one, the artillery one, there might be an advantage grabbing it early because you can't build artillery until you hit it. But most countries actually can, because they can roll it and then build their army. The administrative phase, at least the way I play it, is pretty loose in terms of the order you do things in. Just because it's easier than trying to define an order on it. Alright, well, I seem to have managed to make this video long enough. So we're heading into that next turn. And what we see is Spain and France are neck and neck now on the stability issue. So it's not really a huge advantage. Before, France had a 1-point advantage into going into the war. France may want to consider an alliance with the Turks. If not a formal one, at least an agreement to go to war. But maybe the Turks don't want to face Venice and the Habsburgs. It's hard to tell. Of course, if the Turks declare war just on the Mamluks, and Venice jumps into that and calls Spain in, and Spain chooses not to get involved in it, they take a stability loss. That's good for France. And it keeps things out of, the Turks don't have to fight that 2-front war that they're going to have to fight if they face the whole thing. If they go after the Habsburgs, you can almost be certain Venice is going to jump in on this, because they would love to solidify the position of the Mamluks. And now the Mamluks have Renaissance technology. They have cannons. There's nothing really wrong with them now. Turkey's going to have a hard time fighting them. They really want to get both Hungary and the Mamluks out of the way before they lose their technological advantage. I think Turkey's in that starvation cycle. They fall into it in every game. The question is when, and quite often it's very early in the game if they don't get the Mamluks and they don't get Hungary, because they just don't have that big economic engine that they get off of all that territory that they can grab. So, that makes them kind of less of a threat to the rest of the powers. It's also interesting for Venice, because Venice, although they're going to become the Netherlands next, is at war with Spain and kind of doesn't really mind Turkey advancing there. They always have the option later in the game to shift from Netherlands to the Habsburgs. So they kind of don't want the Habsburgs to do too poorly, even though they're going to be at war with Spain for the most part. And the Habsburgs can be a tool used against them. Alright, enough babbling. Up this goes, and I think we'll probably be able to get a little shorter on the other ones, unless I decide I need to, do a quick hit on another game. I don't know what it might be. I've been thinking about role-playing games. Okay.